is an agreement between more than one person, per se, that something is going on clandestinely, in secret, that to some degree those people believe is being hidden on purpose for the purposes of either control or anything that is not what they consider to be to their benefit. Generally speaking, it doesn't mean that their perception that something like that going on is accurate, and hence the word theory. Because obviously there are, from time to time, actual conspiracies, both positive and negative. Because remember, conspiracy simply means to breathe together, to conspire, so that you are breathing the same vibration. You're in alignment on the same level, positively or negatively. Doesn't matter what direction, it can still be a conspiracy in the fundamental meaning of the word. But most conspiracy theories that people on your planet refer to have more to do with the idea of fear of control or fear of losing control, and thus generally on your planet have moved in a more negative direction, whether they're accurately representative of what's going on or not. It's a way of sort of consolidating in a negative framework for the most part. The idea of finding like minds to reinforce what you already believe to be true, so that you don't necessarily have to think about it more deeply.
And what is the future trajectory for someone who follows conspiracy theories?
Well, again, depending upon the conspiracy theory and its vibrational state, it'll be one of those navigational tools that will navigate them more strongly in the direction of the version of Earth that they believe to be true. So they will, in a sense, have created, for the most part, the thing they're afraid already exists, which may not necessarily be what exists until they have amplified and magnified it as being true. And then, of course, by doing that, they increase the probability of experiencing what they're afraid they will experience.
Good day. Bashar, thank you so much for those gifts. I really appreciate all the gifts you have given myself and everyone else.
Again, it is our passion and our pleasure and a response to all the gifts all of you have given to us.
So speaking of the three simple acts, I love this idea of this trinity of us as humanity, of the earth, as well as the stars. And one of the things that came to mind was that is that by connecting to the earth and grounding ourselves as such, it also then gives us the ability to better reach, in a sense, up.
Yes, exactly as is symbolized by the idea of a tree. The deeper the roots, the higher the tree can grow and the higher the branches can reach.
Thank you. I love that reflection. And then the other thing, which is maybe just a silly question, but I've been exploring this idea of the mycelial network.
Yes.
And I live in an...
Was that a pun?
I don't know. I don't remember.
A silly question exploring the mycelial network.
Then that is exactly what it is.
All right. We thought it might be.
So, speaking of silly mycelials, I live in an urban environment. And so instead of planting trees outside, I brought the trees inside by having a garden in my home, in my apartment.
All right.
And it's silly in the sense that I thought about the idea of the mycelial network, how it is a physical representation of the interconnectedness of the earth.
Yes.
But I have all of these separate potted plants that don't have earth that necessarily combines because they're separate.
Does that mean you're feeling the urge to find a place in which to plant them so that that underground connection can be made by them?
Yes and no. Yes, because I would love to be able to do that. And no, because I like having these plants in my environment, in my home.
Well, you can have as many plants in your environment as you wish, but why not make them pass through plants? In other words, you nurture them up to a certain point and always have plants to nurture in your apartment. But the ones that mature to a certain point, you can then take them to places where you can plant them together and they can grow and connect and carry on the nurturing that you instilled within them, while you bring new plants into your domicile and bring them up to maturation until you can plant them somewhere. You can always have the plants in your apartment, but they could be, just a suggestion, more of a pass-through plant.
Okay, so plant
Like raising a child and sending it out into the world.
Yes.
Does that sound like something you would enjoy?
Yes, because I get to plant a seed and then plant the seed of intention by planting it back outside. So it sounds
All
great.
right, and will that satisfy the idea of your passion of always having plants in the apartment while at the same time also serving the trees themselves to give them a more natural environment?
Indeed.
All right. And is your imagination then in the future capable of coming up with solutions like this yourself?
Yes, Bashar.
All right. Wasn't that difficult to reach to that point, was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
All right. So that in and of itself is something that can greatly benefit the way in which you interact with nature in the future and the way that you act as nature in the future.
Thank you. I've been fortunate enough to have many conversations with you and other extra dimensionals. And every time I feel that, as you have just pointed out, that the conversation is almost redundant because I could have it just as well with myself and my imagination.
Of course, because that's the point anyway. Not that we don't enjoy conversations, and that doesn't mean conversations have to end, but certainly the whole idea and the purpose of our conversations with all of you is to allow you to realize you can have these conversations with your own higher mind and receive the answers that you need because you're already in a partnership with your higher mind, with your physical mind.
Yes, you. So a question that you have been asked probably millions of times in different ways around the formula.
And always for the first time, yes.
Is something that I would like to explore with you.
By all means.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak about inspired action, resistance, and circumstance. And to put that into context, I've chosen to join a project with about 300 other people that will take about 2 years to complete.
How exciting.
Exactly. And so I chose this because I could see that there were threads of excitement in it. I was curious. I would be able to learn. I would be able to do things that excited me through that process.
All right. And?
Now, within that, I feel that there's fractals of excitement because it's a big piece of time, if we want to put it that way. There's
all right,
other
if you say so.
Would you
Is that a problem?
It's not a problem. I think it's about exploring the formula and getting clarity on how I can use the formula to explore that.
Yes. And so that's exciting, yes?
Yes.
All right.
So I think
so far, so good. What
so
else?
far, so good. So one of the things is this idea of, living in a physical world and taking action. And it's about within that space of action, inspired action as opposed to action out of obligation or expectation, I guess.
Yes. Action through responsibility, but not obligation in the negative sense. You are obligated to be responsible to others, but not for others.
So even I think as I'm saying that's a definition I probably need to clean up is when I'm doing something is that I'm doing it from the point of responsibility, not of obligation in a negative sense.
Well, yes, of course. Otherwise, you're creating resistance where none needs to be had.
Okay. Speaking of resistance, so I'm going through my day, part of this project, having a lot of fun, and then there's a period of time where I interact with someone else, and they are asking for something that I don't think is possible, and so I say no. And by doing that, I feel frustrated. I feel a negative sense of energy.
Well, that's just because you're not in touch with the reason why you said no. Maybe you said no for a negative reason, but maybe you said no for a positive reason. Did you give yourself an opportunity to have a discussion with the person to fully explain your response?
I think I did, in the sense that I try to be as clear when I describe things as I can as to my intent and my reason for things.
All right. Well, can you give us an example of something that you said was not possible?
So, as I mentioned, the project will take about 2 years. And so there are many things that need to be done in that time. And one of the things that was asked for with the people we have and the time we have, I believe is unlikely to happen or be done in that amount of time.
You have already shifted, because first you said impossible and now you said unlikely, which is a very different state of being. Does that mean there might be a probability, if you did things in a different way, that it could be accomplished?
Yes.
Then why did you say impossible?
I think this comes back to the idea of resistance. If it's resistance within myself or resistance, maybe as the idea of boundaries, of saying to someone no.
So you have now hit the core issue, which is when those things happen and you feel yourself going into that state of resistance, that in that moment, exploring the idea of why the resistance is there and what it will teach you is the entire purpose of why you're in the project. That's the core reason. Whatever the project is about is secondary to the process it puts you in touch with that allows you to explore and discover more of yourself. So in those moments where it seems that there's a little bit of a limbo, a deadlock, or something not clear, right there, exploring why that's happening and how you can learn from it and how you can move forward, maybe even in a different way than you imagined previously. Whatever that is, whatever that solution is, whatever that path is, whatever that answer is, but right there in facing that moment is the entire reason why you attracted yourself to the project, because that's the fundamental reason why the project exists and why you joined it, is to discover more of yourself and to be of service to others to help them discover more of themselves in the interaction you have when those things arise. At that moment, it's not about the so-called goal of the project. It's about that connection, that awareness, that investigation, that exploration, discovery together about why there is a moment of suspension. And in that will you mine all of the diamonds that you need to find within yourself.
Okay, so that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is the circumstance. It's the props, it's the conversations, it's the people. And I'm realizing in that moment that my state of being is not of a positive one.
And that's the point of why you joined the project, is to discover those things and let go of the belief systems within you that cause the confusion. And when you do that, you may find, maybe, that what's being proposed might be easily done if necessary. You might still say, well, no, that's really not appropriate at this moment. That's fine. But at least it will be an answer and a realization based on the discovery of a belief system within you that you've let go of that will clarify you as to what the real solution is that will help you move forward together with the others, if you're willing to explore that together.
Is there, I would think at first it's about exploring it, or at least my state of being on my own, but as well as exploring this with...
You can do it however you wish, as long as you take the opportunity to find out why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. Yes, of course.
So I think that's the other thing. When I think about these experiences, I recreate the negative emotions.
It's all right if it's just a momentary thing, because remember, one of the tools in the kit of passion is the reflective mirror that brings to your attention something within your belief system that is out of alignment. So you may feel momentarily out of alignment, but finding those things that are not representative of your excitement is part of your excitement. Just because you may temporarily go into that energy doesn't mean that there's something wrong if you choose to use it to learn something from by remaining in your excitement about having discovered something that's not your excitement.
And so to that point, the way I interpret it is that if I was to then focus my attention on something that does excite me or brings me joy or puts me back into a positive state of being, then I can look at that situation again and then kind of explore
Yes.
it and discover what to do.
Yes, because it's important to stay in a positive state in order to get a benefit out of something that you don't prefer. You can neutrally recognize that you don't prefer something, that something is vibrationally not compatible with you. But you have to go back into a positive state in order to use what you don't prefer in a way that you do. If nothing else, manifesting something you don't prefer, it's not that it doesn't belong there, because if it happened, if it manifested, there's obviously a reason for it being there. And if you stay in a positive state, then you will realize that the reason for it being there is that it serves you, if no other way, by giving you a clearer contrast between what you do and don't prefer, which is a positive thing. So use what you don't prefer in a way that you do, and you will learn something from it, and then you'll be able to move forward more easily, more effortlessly, more clearly. Yes? Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Then by all means, our unconditional love and support to you along your path of least resistance.
And
Have
to
fun.
you. Good day.
Good day.